walk before you time. Learn to walk before you fly. You need to enjoy your life.
Thank you guys for joining me, and here let's go and see the process we need to take. Now these are the process and steps. We need to draft out the pattern front and back. We also need to place this pattern on the fabric and cut, and once we're done cutting, we'll go ahead and join. Now what I need you to do right now is write down these measurements, take them on your body, and then write it down somewhere, because these are the measurements we need for the shirt. So guys, I have my pattern paper here, and the first thing I will do is just indicate a starting line. Now if you have your fabric instead, you can also do this. All you have to do is fold your fabric into two, and then you mark along with me. So you don't need a starting line on your fabric, but just make sure that before you mark your point, before you start making your points, leave allowance on the top of your fabric, because we'll be adding like little allowance for joining. Now the first thing I'm going to mark is the elastic allowance, and this I'll be needing 1 inch only. So I'll go ahead and mark 1 inch down from my starting line. So you need to actually take this, because this is where the elastic is going to sit. That's if you're working with a 1 inch elastic, that is what you need to do. Mark 1 inch down for your elastic. So I'm just going to label out that this part is the elastic allowance. So this line automatically makes it my waistline. I'll mark down my hip points, and I'm just going to place it there. This is the waistline. I'll place it and mark my hip line. Now the measurement is provided on the screen, so go ahead and follow the measurement you can see on the screen and mark this down on your pattern or your fabric, whichever you're working with. So this is the hip point. The next point we need to mark is the crotch point. So from the starting line, which is the line, this green line here, I'm going to place my tape and mark my crotch point. And to get your crotch point, go ahead and place your tape on the preferable front waistline. Pass this between your legs to the preferable back waistline. Whatever number you have, divide that number by 2. That is your crotch point. I will be marking mine is 11 inches. So I'll go down 11 inches from my waistline. You guys, please take note, from the waist point, I'm going down by 11 inches to mark my crotch points. Now the next point is going to be the length. So I'll just place the tape from my starting line, and then I'll mark 14 inches. That the length of my shirt is 14 inches. You don't have to use mine. Just go ahead and determine how long you want your shirt to be. And baby girl, go ahead and mark this down from your waistline. So these are all the points we need. Let's go ahead and divide our round measurements. So the first measurement we're going to be dividing by 4 is the round hip. And my round hip divided by 4 is 10.5 inches. So I'm marking this down, and I'll also mark this on the waist point. So this is my waist point. I'm marking the same hip measurement, 10.5, and now connect both lines together, both points from the waist to the hip. Now I need to extend this because the crotch measurement is actually bigger than the hip, and I don't have enough lines, so I'm just extending it. So what you mark on your crotch line is your round lap divided by 2. And now I have to extend the line because I need to add allowance. I always add 2 inches allowance to my crotch. So that is why I'm extending. Now on the crotch line, after marking my round lap divided by 2, I always add 2 inches allowance. So that's what I'm going to add. I'm just going to add 2 inches after the 13.5. And this is it. So to connect my hip to the crotch, I'm using a curve ruler. If you don't have a ruler, use your free hand to do this, girl. You can do this. So go ahead and connect with a curve from your hip to your crotch. And now what we're going to be marking on the length is the crotch measurement. So I'm just going to take the line down like this And you guys, that is it for the front pattern. So I'm just connecting this line because it actually needs to be connected. And this is the front pattern. We're going to be adding 1/2 inch around this pattern, so I'm just going to go ahead and mark my allowance like this. From top of the waistband we need a 1/2 inch. Now why I'm adding the 1/2 inch on the elastic, on top of the elastic, is I need to fold my elastic in, and while I'm folding I need a 1/2 inch to fold this in. So go ahead and add that allowance. Now this is why you need to leave, if you're using a fabric, this is why you need to leave a little bit of fabric before you start marking your points, because of course we're going to be needing this allowance to join the short and also fold in the elastic. So I'm also going to add 1/2 inch on the length because of the hemming. I'm going to be hemming this in. I need the allowance. Once you're connecting your allowance, make sure when you get to the crotch part, make sure you connect the hip to the crotch with a curve, just as you did when we were marking measurements. We use the curve on that point. Make sure you use a curve so you get it properly. So I'm just indicating that these are the allowance I added so I don't forget and take too much. I'm just going to go ahead and start cutting out my pattern because, baby girl, the front pattern for this short is ready. So I have my fresh paper here. I'm just going to place my front pattern, and then I'm just going to place heavy object. I'll place my scissors to hold this together so it doesn't move, because I need to trace this pattern, this whole front pattern out on the fresh paper. The main work is always on the front. Once you have your front figured out, making your back most times is always easy. So I'm just tracing out my front pattern on the fresh paper, and all we have to do now is extend the crotch and then extend some points by 1.5 inch, and that is it. So now I'm just going to start extending. I'm adding 1.5 inch on all points, from the elastic down to the waistline, down to the hip line, down to the crotch line. I'm just going to keep extending all by 1.5. So this is how you draft out your back. Very easy. So I'm just going to connect all points together. Make sure your front crotch and your back crotch meets together. Make sure it all sits together. And if you have a curve ruler for this part, please go ahead and use it. If you don't have a curve ruler, just go ahead and use your free hand to make a curve, and I'm sure you're going to get it right. So make sure you adjust to where you need to adjust. Don't be scared to adjust. And yeah, you guys, this is the back pattern. Wasn't that very fast and easy? Now we have our pattern drafted. All we have to do now is place this pattern on the fabric and cut. And this is it. I have my back pattern here and this is my front pattern. Let's go ahead and cut on the fabric. Now I did this off the camera. I placed my pattern on fabrics and I cut this out. And each piece, that's for the front and for the back, I have 2 pieces of each. And yeah, this is the back piece, and as you can see I have 2 pieces of this. I'm going to sew the 2 pieces together like this. I'm just sewing on the L shape, and I'm just going to be sewing in 1/2 inch. That is the only allowance I left. That's what I'm going to sew in. Before I take my front piece to the machine to join, I'm going to step down by 1/2 inch. Watch this part. I'm just going to come down a little bit by 1/2 inch. I just need to drop the waistline a bit. I think 1/4 inch because I didn't take much. And yeah, now I can take this to the machine and sew like this. I'm just following the L shape. So once I was done sewing, this is what I have. I don't know what you have because I don't know what your project looks like, but yeah, this is what I have. Your project will actually look like this if you're following the steps. And I need to mark in my darts. So what I do is I went ahead to fold in this part to meet the middle line. The line we just joined the two pieces together is my middle line. I just folded this into two to meet the middle line, and I'm just going to mark down 3 inches on that point on the close edge, and then I'm going to be taking in 1/2 inch on the top. That is my darts. I'm marking in 1/2 inch. So you can decide to take 1/4 inch, or you can decide to follow and mark 1/2 inch. So I'm just taking in 1/2 inch, and then I'll connect the 3 inches to the 1/2 inch. I'm going to be using my straight ruler for this. I'm just going to connect this like this, and this is the darts I'll be taking in on my shirt. So if you don't want your shirt to have that, baby girl, go ahead and skip this. It's not going to make your shirt look any uglier or any different. I just need this dart, you know, to give it some extra, but you don't need to do this. So I'll repeat the same thing I did on this side and mark down 3 inches just as we did on the other side, and mark in 1/2 inch, connect these points together, and this is the dart we're going to be sewing in on. This is the front piece, you guys, and this is the dart we're going to be sewing on the front piece. So I'll take this to the machine and sew my dart. And on the back darts, we're going to be doing the same thing, but the difference is we're going to be marking down 4 inches. So I folded this in the same way to the middle line I have on the shirt, and I'm just going to mark down 4 inches. That's the difference between the dart on the front and the dart on the back. So I'm just marking 4 inches down. I'm also going to take in just 1/2 inch. So I'm just taking in 1/2 inch on this point, and then I'll connect the 1/2 inch to the 4 inches like we did on the front piece. Just the same process. I'll repeat this on this side. I'll take my dart, mark down 4 inches, mark in 1/2 inch, connect points together, and yeah, we're good to go. I'll take my front piece and my back piece and go sew in my dart. Now once I was done sewing in the dart, this is how it looks, guys. Now we need to place the both pieces together and join. So now I'll place the back piece on the front piece, and now I'll go sew the sides by 1/2 inch. Remember, that is the only allowance we left. Now on the crotch, I'll be sewing this in by 1/2 inch. I'll just go join the crotches together, or the crotch together. I'll go join the crotch together, and yeah. So once I was done sewing this piece together, this is what I have. I have this already flipped to the front side, and yeah, this is it. This is how it looks. This is how your project should be looking if you're following my steps. Now this is the elastic I'll be using. What I did for the elastic, my round waist is 31. I minus 6 inches from my round waist, and my elastic is 25 inches long. So yeah, that is what I did. Or my elastic is 25 inches wide, whatever you want to use, but I minus just 6 inches from my actual measurements. And yeah, that is what I'm using. I'm using 25 inches as my elastic. Let's confirm this measurements. Yeah, 25. That is what I'm using. Now I'll take the 2 ends of the elastic and go close this up, because there's a certain way we're going to be joining our elastic to this. So I'll go close this up, and here you have it. This is how it looks. Because I have 4 points on the shirt, I have this, I have this, I have this, and I have this. So I have 4 points. I need to indicate that on my elastic. So what I'll do is I'll fold this into 2 equal parts. And then I'm just going to use my chalk to indicate on this side that this is the point. The other part, I have the sewing there, so it makes it 1 point. Now on this side, I'm just going to indicate that this is another point. And then I'll fold this into 4 equal points and to get my last point. And yeah, I'm just indicating with my yellow chalk. And you can see this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have my 4 points. I'm just going to attach this to the shirt. And before I place my elastic on my short, I'll make sure that I place this half an inch down from the fabric. Make sure you go down by half an inch or quarter an inch. So because I don't have a weaving machine, I don't want the fabric to show after sewing this. So I'm just going to make sure I place the elastic half inch below the fabric for folding. So yeah, half inch, or pin all points to where they need to sit. And yeah, this is it. So I have all points figured out. I'll take this to the machine and sew. This is how I'm sewing this. So remember to leave a little bit of allowance before you start sewing your elastic. Like I said, we're going to be folding this in, and you see how. So make sure you leave a little bit of fabric, and you can decide to sew just one line on your shirt, but I'll be sewing 2 lines because I don't know, that is just how I do it. Now this is the second line. I'm done with the first line. This is the second line. Make sure you stretch while you sew. Remember, the elastic is a little bit smaller than your waist, so you have to stretch while you sew. I'm stretching and I'm sewing. So I'm sewing on the second line, and once I am done sewing, I'll fold in my elastic and then I'll stop stitch on the fabric. You see how? You guys, if I've not mentioned this before, if you're new, please go ahead and subscribe. If you find this interesting, don't forget to like. And yes, this is me trying to fold in the elastic. So I'll fold it half an inch first, and then I'll fold in the elastic and sew. You guys will see what I do on my machine. So I'll go ahead and fold in the half an inch like this on the elastic, and once I have that done, I'll fold in my elastic like this, and now I'll top stitch to hold down the fabric and the elastic together. And remember, you need to stretch while you sew. So do I have to make a music out of this? Stretch while you sew. You need to stretch while you sew. You need to stretch while you sew. So I'm stretching and I'm sewing, and you guys, this is the result after all we have done. And by this time, your project should be looking as beautiful as mine. And the last step for this particular video is to hem the edges on the base, that's on the length. We're going to be hemming this in. So I'll go ahead and hem my base. And if you succeedingly followed my steps, your shirt should be looking beautiful. And yeah, you have learned something. Why not go ahead and like, because you have actually learned something. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking to the end of the video. Hope you like the video. Hope this was interesting, and not just interesting, this was helpful to somebody. Let me know in the comment section if you find this very, very helpful. Thank you guys once more. I really do love and appreciate each and every one of you. Keep being creative, keep going out of your way, because one day it's gonna pay off. So yeah, so you guys, that is all I have for you on this particular video. On behalf of me and my sewing tools, we are saying goodbye and hope to see you and your sewing tools or supply on the next video. Bye for now.